Nationally, there has been heightened scrutiny over how states handled nursing homes in the early stages of the pandemic. Of course, front and center is Governor Andrew Cuomo of New York, under fire for forcing nursing homes to take patients from hospitals without a test first, and later covering up just how many of the state's elderly died. And that brings me to an article that's been floating around about our governor, Jay Inslee, that I have been emailed about quite a bit. The article, written by Ari Hoffman and posted to the Post Millennial, is headlined, "Is Jay Inslee the next Andrew Cuomo? Washington State offered funds to nursing homes to accept COVID patients." Okay, so a few things there. First, let's talk about that headline, though. While posed as a question, it clearly insinuates that Governor Inslee could have done something just as egregious as Cuomo, a governor who is being directly blamed for the deaths of thousands of people and whose job is hanging on by a thread. Now, I'm going to take you through the facts of this situation, but let me just state something off the top. How our state handled nursing homes is not comparable to how New York and Governor Cuomo handled them. It really is not even close. There are some significant differences of fact. So let's go through those one by one, shall we? First, in New York, Governor Cuomo mandated that nursing homes take even COVID-positive hospital patients. The March 25th memo read, "No resident shall be denied readmission or admission to the nursing home solely based on a confirmed or suspected diagnosis of COVID-19. Another key difference in New York, Governor Cuomo prohibited nursing homes from giving COVID tests prior to patients being transferred into their facilities. The March 25th memo read, "Nursing homes are prohibited from requiring a hospitalized resident who is determined medically stable to be tested for COVID-19 prior to admission or readmission." So not only did he force nursing homes to take hospital patients in the middle of a pandemic, but he did so knowing that he was preventing those facilities from properly protecting their other residents. Neither of those things happened in our state. That's a fact. Another key difference, Governor Cuomo's administration covered up the number of dead and then tried to use verbal gymnastics to explain it away by blaming everyone else for simply misunderstanding.
The void we created by not providing information was filled with skepticism and cynicism and conspiracy theories, which furthered the confusion.
Yeah, okay. So with those key factual differences established between New York and Washington, let's do away with the narrative that Washington's handling of nursing homes is comparable in any way to New York's. It's not. Now, that being said, there is value in scrutinizing Governor Inslee's handling of this issue on its own merits without comparing it to another state. So here is what we know to be true. Since March 5th, 2020 through February 20th, 2021, 2,111 patients were transferred from hospitals into Washington's long-term care facilities. While the state did not mandate those transfers, it did offer an added Medicaid incentive for facilities to take those transfers. This is the March 20th letter referenced in the Post Millennial story, the red lines, that's from Post Millennial. So this is the letter where this incentive is laid out. Now, what's important to note, and stick with me here, is that the incentive was not specific to transferring COVID patients out of hospitals into long-term care facilities. The letter does not specify what kind of patients should be transferred. It does say capacity is needed in hospitals because of the coronavirus pandemic. But the letter is just trying to encourage long-term care facilities to accept patients they otherwise might not, thus the incentive. According to the state, I called them about this. I'm like, what does this mean? They say that this could include people who are severely mentally ill or disabled. The state says that the letter was not offering an incentive to specifically accept COVID-positive patients from hospitals. And that is true. It does not say that specifically in the letter. However, clearly the state was aware that any patients being transferred from a hospital into a long-term care facility during a pandemic could have COVID-19. So on March 24th, the state issued guidance. Take a look at this. Again, this letter was published by the Post Millennial, but it was verified as authentic by the state. The letter gives guidance on accepting a resident with COVID-19 from a hospital. It reads, long-term care facilities should admit residents with COVID-19 who are no longer acutely ill back to their long-term care residences. So that seems pretty clear that the state knew long-term care facilities might be taking in COVID-positive patients from hospitals. And so the state gave guidance on how to take precautions to prevent further spread within the facilities. Now, importantly, there is no data available from the state on how many patients transferred from hospitals could have been COVID positive. The state did tell us that most nursing homes were requiring 2 negative COVID tests prior to patient transfer, but that was not a state requirement. Here's what else we know when it comes to the numbers. Since the start of the pandemic, long-term care facilities in our state have accounted for more than 19,000 of all positive COVID cases. That's about 5%. But those same facilities accounted for nearly half of all COVID deaths in our state, more than 2,500. And given the fact that there is absolutely no way of knowing whether any of those deaths were a direct result of hospital patients being transferred into long-term care facilities, I asked Governor Inslee to reflect on the state's decision to allow those transfers in the first place. Here is our full exchange.
We know that nationally there's been heightened scrutiny over how states handled nursing homes in the early stages of the pandemic. Here in Washington, you incentivize nursing homes to take patients from hospitals to create capacity. Should the state have allowed, let alone incentivized, those transfers given the risk of death to that population?
I don't see a reason to second guess that decision. We had a looming critical shortage of space in our hospitals, so I would not second guess that decision based on the rearview mirror.
So that is what we know. And now you know the factual differences between how our state and New York handled nursing homes and long-term care facilities during the pandemic. And hopefully you can take that information and use it to help inform your perspective on the issue.